What's up, folks? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to review Marcy Playground's debut album, Marcy Playground. This came out back in '97, and around these parts in southern Missouri, I still hear one of the singles off this project frequently. And there's like a series of songs that are like from the late '90s, early 2000s that I continue to hear, like Gone with the Sick or Down with the Sickness by Disturbed, and Whatever by Godsmack, What It's Like by Everlast, and Sex and Candy by uh, Marcy Playground, and Dragula, some of those songs. So yeah, uh, Sex and Candy was a huge song. It lasted a hit #1 on the rock charts, and I guess it stayed there for like 15 weeks back in the '90s. Which I think when it came out in late '97, that probably meant that probably about until about spring of the following year from whenever they dropped it. So yeah, that's relatively good. That's kind of the thing. But this album, I kind of was messing with it last year. I did an unboxing, but I wanted to do more, and I was just kind of waiting a bit. But it just feels good to kind of get that in motion. And all right, hang on. I'm gonna bring up the Wikipedia page to help me out. So there were 3 singles from this project. It did decently. It hit platinum, which meant it sold 1 million copies. But really, this album is kind of like a cult album, a real sleeper, which I kind of feel, and that it makes sense. This was a big album that I knocked a lot. I played a lot last year, and so I want to talk about some of the records. I mean, like I said, it's mellow, it's real low key, fits my theme on my YouTube channel perfectly, but it's not a perfect album. So I'm going to kind of discuss that more. So we'll kind of get into this project. So the first single, I guess, was not Sex and Candy, but it was Poppy. So I didn't really like this song. It's a more fast paced kind of record. Really, this record, I looked at some of the reviews and they talked about it being like opiate obsessed bullshit. This is a very, like I said, the tempo is just very mellow. It's acoustic. It's not uh, it's not really what you would play at like a night out, a Friday night, a Saturday night, something where there's some sort of backyard party, get together, picnic, any of those things. It's really kind of winding down or just kind of reflecting kind of music. And it's strange just because the single Sex and Candy is so good, but that's the thing. 3 of these singles out of 4 that are on here are not up tempo. So normally a rock record, the first single is usually the most up tempo and brash and just abrasive kind of song that makes you want to mosh pit and that sort of stuff. But they don't have anything like that. And the closest thing that kind of came to that on this project was the first song you hear, which is Poppies. And I didn't like it. I mean, really, I get so used to the kind of sleepy rock and just more relaxed kind of ambient rock that Marcy Playground kind of gives, that this song, while it's different, it somehow I wasn't quite vibing with it. But it is a different kind of, it's a different approach. So if you're expecting like St. Joe on the School Bus, Sex and Candy, Sherry Frazier, it's not like any of those. So the next single that was a minor hit and was probably the second biggest song on this project was St. Joe on the School Bus. Now, this is one I wanted to talk about. I really took a liking to this song last year. Had never heard it on the radio just because my local rock doesn't really play the second single too much unless it really hits big. But around in the United States, it basically hit like 25 or 31 on the rock charts, which is kind of mellow. Or I mean, I think it only goes to like 35 or 40 that the rock charts even keep track of, but it was just a real low key kind of song, and that's the only other song off this project that charted. But I like it. I love the hook. I kind of wish it had a different title. It seems kind of for like the younger set, with it being St. Joe on the School Bus. I mean, that's kind of the thing, to go from Sex and Candy to like this song. I mean, I kind of feel like with Marcy Playground, it kind of being somewhat, it's just strange the way they approached it, because I would have figured they would have went to a song like Need a Drink, or She Has Such Lovely Features, or something like that, you get some sort of idea that they could have talked about like life is good, how many of these other things, but just the approach of the topic was, I just didn't like the song topic. I like the song and the singing, but not so much the topic. But it is a good song. I mean, that's about the only complaint I have about it. Then the third single, Sex and Candy, is the biggest song on here. It's got a very much earworm hook. I mean, it's been played basically for about 23 years straight now. I mean, you can hear it probably at least a couple times a month on almost any local rock, depending, it's a cat out there, depending upon what you depending upon when you listen to rock and stuff. So it's a great song. I mean, it's in the Hall of Fame of rock music, especially alternative rock. I think, despite, even if you're not a fan of this band, you'll probably like this song. And then Sherry Frazier is kind of, that's actually my second favorite song on here, more so than St. Joe on the School Bus. I mean, that one just really feels like, to me, that feels like a song that you would listen to after getting off work. You're in your car, you're on your way home, maybe you're picking up like some Wendy's or something, and you hear that song. It's just real relaxed. I mean, especially when it's evening time. That's kind of the way I felt. A lot of this music feels more like evening music, more so than night based, and like, oh, I'm about to go crazy tonight. It doesn't really have those kind of vibes, which it's not a crazy project. It's not a loco project. It's not like got like methods to its madness. It's real kind of relaxed and just kind of, you know, I guess just to keep referring to low key, it's kind of how it was. But Sherry Frazier, I mean, that takes the slow tempo of Sex and Candy and slows it down even more. I'm surprised that singles can even have such almost hazy kind of music for that sort of approach. And I looked it up. Apparently, Sherry Frazier was played on MTV2 and maybe got some light radio play. I like that. I like when singles don't chart, but they still get airplay and stuff. It's pretty good. But like I said, it's such a sluggish song. I mean, it's very. I'm surprised that the band, that it just feels like you're either drunk out of your mind and you can't even keep up with the tempo, or it just is lazy. It's just so lazy. And if the tempo, which is low, a little bit less than mid tempo on Sex and Candy, and then real slow on Sherry Frazier, it gets like completely just, I'm trying to think of the word, like, uh, inert almost on Opium and shit. That one is, as is the thing, it just feels like you're just like, your eyes are red, you're just looking at something, it's crazy. But that's the thing, a lot of the songs kind of do that. Like I said, this whole album is not fast paced. That's kind of, I mean, I guess to get to talking about the rest of this project, there's a lot of junk on here that really doesn't have much business being on a rock record. It Just the whole vibe to it. Maybe it's a little bit too sleepy. I mean, I can tolerate the singles, but there's really no other flavor for the album cuts. I mean, they, with Poppies and maybe one or two other songs, they prove that, up tempo is not really their cup of tea. But there's just not enough flavors or interesting topics to kind of keep this record. I mean, Metallica can do it, Korn can do it, uh, Limp Bizkit and Godsmack, some of these people, Black Sabbath, but I just feel like some of these are like real not approachable. Dog and His Master, Cloak of Elvenkind. I mean, some of these, I don't know. I mean, I do feel like it was kind of a trippy project, but I was kind of hoping for something that had more like just song titles that, the songs that were kind of more basic. I guess that's the best way. And normally I don't bitch about songs needing to be more basic, but I think that might have had something to do with like why this band did not flourish past this specific album. They barely made it out of the 90s just because, Sex and Candy was the biggest song. That's just what I'm talking about. It's an approachable song, it's a relationship song. You had your problems, this kind of like malaise that you felt with what was going on, and then that was it. I mean, you look at some of the other ones, I just don't know. St. Joe on a School Bus, and then Sherry Frazier I liked, but I mean, even that, I would have preferred like another just topic of something that was kind of even relationship driven. They could have done it, but they didn't. So I don't know. I mean, I looked up the information on Sherry Frazier, and it kind of said like it was based upon someone in the band that they knew, but uh, someone that was a friend of the band rather. But is kind of the thing. So yeah, so that's when I talk about this band, that's kind of the indication is this was their best album, at least their most popular one. So I don't know how much more I'm going to talk about them, but just to kind of say what there is. I mean, from what I judged by them, I love the singles, I love the approach towards them, but I just did not like the variety in it had a lack of interesting topics, and then uh, not being able to pull off more than just a sluggish tempo, kind of almost drug induced flavor. So those are kind of the big things about it, which it's a cult album. It's good enough for like a few nights or evenings or something, but it runs out of steam quickly. That's kind of the thing. So, but yeah, I'm going to give this album, I guess I'll talk about the other songs. So out of 12 songs, there were 5 songs I enjoyed and I recommend to you. So those were Sex and Candy, St. Joe on the School Bus, Sherry Frazier, Opium, and then The Shadow of Seattle. Talk about that one. That was kind of a mid-tempo and a lot more, had energy to it, felt good. This was a real surprise on there. I was liking where that song was kind of going, but a lot of these other ones, if you are kind of just wanting, to get back to like the topics and stuff, like Gone Crazy, wasn't liking the instrumentation on that. Uh, Dog and His Master, One More Suicide, Vampires in New York. Some of those were just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I would think I would like Vampires in New York, but this didn't quite match up. I feel like the problem with Sex and Candy was just the fact that it was so off the wall and they didn't know how to replicate it and try to create something at the same time. They're basically seen as a one-hit wonder band. They're not, because they can actually do other songs, but I feel like just in terms of trying to create an addictive hook, addictive instrumental, and then topic on top of that, all those things combined, that this was marketed towards radio, was kind of difficult. So they just didn't pull it off, and it's been proven that they didn't. So that's kind of the thing. So, but yeah, I'm gonna give this album, because I like 5 out of 12. I'm gonna give this album just a 5 out of 10. I mean, it's a little bit better. I should give it like a 4 or something, but I'm gonna give it a 5 just because I liked all the singles, and it did have personality. That's definitely something I have to say it does have. So the social score gets like a 6 because Sex and Candy was such a good song, and St. Joe on the School Bus was modest, and Sherry Frazier was good. So just about a 6. But I mean, the problem with it was 2 out of 3 of the singles were not as nearly as big. So just the fact that this album went platinum was solely because of Sex and Candy. So Poppies, that one, I don't know what was up with that. I mean, really, I didn't like that one. But so yeah, social score gets a 6, and that means how you would play it around like other people if you're trying to introduce it to like your circle or something. So yeah, so 5 out of 10, 6 social.